And there's Lisa Murphy.
Perfect. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Katie. Okay, cool. Well, let's get started. Here we are, September 17th. We have a quorum as per Karen. Thank you. And I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. We don't have a treasurer's report this month, so the agenda and the minutes.
Nothing to show.
I'll move.
Any second? Oh, Valerie.
Okay, I saw Valerie. Did Brian make the motion?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Okay, so it's Brian and Valerie.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any negatives?
Okay.
Okay. Cool. Well, let's keep it moving. So I want to introduce Lisa Murphy, Cambria resident, amazingly brilliant woman, board member of Green Space, and yeah, hopefully our new alternate for Area 7. Here's Commander Boss joining. So Lisa, I don't know if there's anything that you want to share with us as a group, what, I don't know, yeah, your experience or why you are interested in being on the NCAC, but feel free to share whatever floats your boat, and I'd love to take a vote on Lisa as a new member.
Right on. So yeah, my wife Erin and I moved here about 2.5 years ago, and I jumped on the Green Space board pretty quickly. And so I've really been enjoying that. I've been doing, if you've heard about the wildlife cameras, that's my project in Strawberry Canyon that's going on right now, the Snapshot USA. And I also do some bat surveying stuff. I've taught a class at Cuesta for the ranch education program, and I still teach for the community college where we moved from, which is up in Sonora, which is called Columbia Community College, and teach for forestry and natural resources up there. And I was actually on an elected board up there for the Tuolumne Utilities district. And so have been on boards before. The idea of a advisory council, I think, is brilliant for the area where the North Coast gets to voice their concerns and their support of different things. And I think also the thing that really I love about the meetings that I've come to is, having the representation from the fire department, from the sheriff, from the water folks, from the folks on the recreation committee, all of the different folks reporting in here. I think it's just a really great way to know what's going on here and be involved in our community. So I'd love to be the alternate for Lodge Hill area.
Thank you, Lisa. So I think everybody knows I am in full support of this. So, oops, here it goes. There's 3 dogs in the house, so I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Who was that?
Jeff.
Jeff? Thanks, Jeff. And Valerie seconds. I think I saw her hand. Is that right?
Any negatives? I don't think
Should
so.
I be on for this?
Thanks, Lisa.
Yes.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm just gonna mix up the agenda for a second. We have our friendly Commander Darren here from the CHP, and he actually has a county meeting that he is outside of in his car. So Darren, do you just want to give us a quick update really fast before you skip out?
Thanks, Christina, and thanks for allowing me to disrupt the meeting in this format. And I had talked to Christina earlier for this opportunity. So you all know that me being a part of your meetings is important to me, so I can hear what concerns you have and hopefully make a difference from the Highway Patrol side based out of Templeton CHP. And I am literally on Palm Street in the car. I am parked, so no worries, no hypocrisy here. But I was invited to a bicycle advisory committee by Caltrans and through SlowCog, and I wanted to be a part of that, and that happened to be at 6 o'clock tonight also. And it's the one opportunity for me to introduce myself and see what's going on out there. So that's why I'm splitting my time between both. So with that, I just want to report August statistics for crash and enforcement in the Cambria region. This is for August. There were a total of 6 crashes investigated by Templeton CHP officers. 2 were on the highway, which is Highway 1 or Highway 46, and 4 were on county roads. 3 of those were property damage only. Sorry, moving on. Doesn't look like that adds up. Looks like 3 were injury and 3 were property damage only. There were 75 enforcement contacts. 45 citations were issued out of those contacts. 19 were for speeding violations, 3 for seatbelt, and there were 2 DUI arrests. I also want to address, one of your constituents had complained about speeding along Highway 1 into Cambria. I mentioned the region that she said was from Cayucas, where I said that is San Luis Obispo CHP's issue or responsibility. And of course, she didn't care whose responsibility it was still a problem. So with that, I reached out to San Luis Obispo CHP and we partnered with them, Templeton CHP officers and San Luis Obispo CHP officers went out on September 9th.
Yep.
For a period of 2 hours. Some of you had seen them, as I had heard in the Cambria district meeting from some folks there. In that 2-hour period of time, 18 enforcement contacts were made, 14 citations were issued, and those were for various moving violations, which include speeding, passing over the double yellows, driving in the wrong lane, etc. And I understand that they went out again today to do it again this afternoon. When I get that information, I'll report back to you either live in person on the meeting, or I'll email that through Christina. And with that, that's all I have to report, but I'm open for any questions.
Okay, Ted, you want to go ahead? Oh, you're muted.
Just want to thank you, sir. I was the person who requested that enforcement, and I think the numbers kind of bear out the need, but thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Brian? You wanna
Christina,
go?
I just wanted to comment that based on the commander's input, we've noticed a whole lot more, or at least a lot more CHP presence in the area in the last couple of months, and it's certainly been a positive thing. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
you.
Glusevich. I appreciate hearing that. I'll pass that along to the officers and sergeants. We'll keep it up.
Thank you so much. It looks like we don't have any other hands up. So yeah. Go rock it at this Slow Cog Bicycle meeting.
Thank you, Christina. Good night, you all.
All right, good night. Okay, all right, so thank you guys for allowing that. Let's move on to public comment. 3 minutes per person. Who's first? Oh, Ted's already got his hand up. Go ahead.
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yeah, you're unmuted, and Katie will go next.
Madam President, my public comment is timed to 3 minutes and 15 seconds, and I'd appreciate being uninterrupted during that time. Thank you. During the August 19th County Supervisors meeting, Mr. Gibson made the comment, React Alliance is spreading misinformation regarding offshore wind. No specifics during public comment, no less. Before the Coastal Commission, I have received approval for suggesting covering the California aqueducts with American-made solar panels rather than sending billions of tax subsidies to foreign oil companies pushing big wind. This project, now already begun, creates jobs throughout the state, reduces evaporation losses, and provides power as it's built rather than years from now. Adding vertical orientation turbines to the scaffolding and water turbines beneath creates 24-hour generation capability. Commissioners liked alternatives to defacing our coast with industrialization. Briefly, there are some facts on the Big Wind project. The proposed 800 1,000-foot tall towers with blades the diameter of a professional stadium will require massive fossil fuel dependence to build, transport, and constantly maintain in the sea's caustic, inhospitable environment. 300-foot-long service vessels will be on site daily, burning thousands of gallons of fuel a year, with base thrusters and blade startup using diesel and other significant gear lubricants changed out regularly. Fossil fuel dependence to get us off fossil fuels is ridiculous. The nearshore AC to DC substations will not only be plainly visible, but what runs through cooling will emit 1 million gallons of bleached water per day back into the ocean. The Danish company that makes the gigantic blades posted a 185 million Danish kroner loss last year from warranty and manufacturing defects. The blades require costly transport, are made from dangerous laminated plastics, aren't recyclable or repurposed easily, and literal huge tracts of land. Blade breakage from the Vineyard Project off Nantucket sent broken shards of sharp, dangerous pieces, shutting down their beaches for months, resulting in a damage settlement of $10 million. Even if the blades don't break, they require expensive, dangerous surface repair and constantly shed DNA-altering microplastics flowing directly over the life-supporting upwelling with unknown effects of airflow disruption by 800 stadium-sized blades extending to 1,800 feet. Adding to manufacturing defects, there's no guaranteeing that lightning strikes won't do the same here. When I talked with Congressman Panetta, he was unaware of the Nantucket disaster or that the Coos Bay project has been halted by the Indian nations and their congressmen from the apparent magnetic disorientation to salmon. Clearly, more education is required. I have spoken with many hotel managers on Moonstone Beach. They're not in favor of this threat, nor are the people I have worked with for the last decade rescuing sea mammals regarding the effect on the elephant seal rookery and other marine life on our coast. From the responses of the well-attended town hall and awareness walk, I know that the people of Cambria don't support this project. The A24 vote shows the people of Morro Bay don't either. And from the rousing applause I received at the Avila Valley Advisory meeting, the industrialization of Port San Luis is unpopular. Supervisor Gibson, would you please provide a list of the specific misinformation from REACT? This will help to clarify your choice between representing the citizenry or supporting foreign manufacturing interests which do not align with local concerns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ted. Katie, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. Onto a completely different subject, and I'm just going to read what I wrote because it's just going to be easier and more succinct. So first of all, hello all of you, and it's really nice to see you all. It's great, and thanks for including me in the meeting. I just wanted to follow up with you about the situation in my neighborhood regarding the properties on Newton and Ramsey. I spoke briefly about it at the last meeting. And as you know, I've filed a code compliance complaint with both the county and the Coastal Commission. And I would like to see about getting an update from the county agencies on the steps taken since our last meeting to address the issues at hand, public safety being the most important. I'd like to provide my own update by letting you know that the grading has continued unabated on both properties and properties that don't belong to these individuals. The trash continues to accumulate on the roadside and parking congestion has not been relieved. And there seems to be some sort of construction of some kind of new structure taking place on the property as well. One additional situation, as I washed my dishes in my kitchen a couple weeks ago, I looked out my kitchen window and up in the sky was a drone hovering over my next door neighbor's property with the front of the drone trained toward my property. At first I thought, yay, the county finally has someone out to gather aerial data to determine property lines and grading extent. And unfortunately, I was mistaken. A few days later, I met a neighbor who told me that the Newton Ramsey property owners in question survey us neighbors all the time. They were surveying me. I can't tell you how disturbing and unsafe this has made me feel. Here's what I really want to know. How is it that these folks had a meth shack that blew up and burned down, that both Chief Berkey and Mr. McElhaney were actually there to help extinguish. And I've had to call the fire department 3 times in 10 months for illegal trash fires. And many neighbors have complained about them for many years and nothing has happened. I just wanted to explain to me like I'm in first grade or something. Here's the deal. I'm lucky to live in a neighborhood in Cambria where the median age is not 800. We actually have little dinkers running around and playing and having the best time of their lives and not on their phones. And even our 800s are out there being active with their dogs and such. So this is a public safety issue because basically if anything ever happened to one of those children, it's on you, it's on me, and it's on all of us because we could have done something about it. So just to be a little humorous about it, I work in television. Basically every day it's Ozark meets Breaking Bad meets Sons of Anarchy meets the Clampetts. And that's not the mashup I was hoping for when I came to Cambria. I'd like a little more Mr. Rogers meets Petticoat Junction meets the Andy Griffith Show, if you don't mind. That's it.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Stepping off the soapbox.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. So, okay. So is that it? Do we have any other hands for public comment? And then we will move on to, Commander Abbas, if you're ready. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon. Commander Boss here. Looking at our call statistics for the month of August, we had a total of 344 calls for service. That's up slightly from 327 calls for service last year at the same time frame. Of note were 18 preventative patrol activities, 8 enforcement stops, and 3 thefts. And I believe 1 or 2 of those thefts were attributed to people trying to, if not actually completing the theft of e-bikes. So just as a reminder, if you have an e-bike, have some pretty heavy duty locks that you're able, or other securing devices to protect your valuable property. And for some folks, one of the primary means of transportation. Another thing that I wanted to bring up was it did happen at the very beginning of August, but the Gifford fire. So I spent 8 days as the sheriff's office representative on the unified command for that fire. So I just wanted to remind everyone to be prepared. Take the time to check at readyslow.org. On the preparedness page, there's a lot of information there about being prepared for, disasters, including fires. Of particular note was knowing your evacuation zone. So there's information there about evacuation zones, and again, that's a critical component of making sure that we're able to get everybody notified as safely as possible if an event like a fire happens anywhere, but in particular in the North Coast. The best way to avoid serious injury, and again, that's the main priority, is being prepared ahead of time. So take a few minutes to be prepared, have a plan. If a fire is north of you, what would be your route? If a fire is south of you, what would be your route of egress? There were people who were displaced for upwards of a week. So having at least some sort of, go bag or something to that effect that you'd be able to grab to have you sustain for, 3-5 days, maybe potentially longer. So that is what I have, unless anybody else has anything for me.
Jeff, you want to go ahead? And thank you, Commander. Oh, Jeff, you're muted.
Sorry. Commander Abbas, is there ever been a collaboration between the sheriff and code enforcement to address community issues like this potential drug lab, or where it's really a more than just a policing issue, it's also, a nuisance to the community. And if our fire chief ended up having to help put out the fire, it seems like we have a bigger problem than any one individual group of the county or the CCSD could address on their own. So I'm just curious if you ever collaborate with county code enforcement, building and safety, and the other departments to address these issues.
So because we're relying on very different enforcement tools, there isn't a whole lot of overlap in our ability to respond. Now, where we have assisted code enforcement is if, say, they're going to take some sort of enforcement action at a place where they don't feel safe responding to, then we will go there in order to ensure their safety as they're performing their code function. So that is the way primarily that we would engage. Now, I don't want to put any particular residents, business out there, but I will tell you that we respond to a lot of calls on and around Ramsey. And when there is criminal activity, that we take enforcement action, and have taken a lot of enforcement action on or around Ramsey over the years. So again, I'm not going to name specific addresses or specific people, but again, when we are called and when we are able, we will take enforcement action. And again, in and around the Ramsey area, we have taken a significant amount of criminal enforcement action.
That's what I expected. What I'm really advocating for is that you take the community policing approach, where it's not just the sheriff doing law enforcement, it's the sheriff. If you all meet together on a case like this, then everybody gets to do their part of taking care of the community problem. But if you never meet collaboratively, then you never get that holistic approach to getting rid of the problem. And it leaves each agency to flop around on their own trying to address it. So I understand the security aspect of serving warrants or whatever, that code enforcement needs support, but maybe they need support. Maybe there's a right of entry issue and fire has it, but code enforcement doesn't, or there's a law enforcement angle that allows code enforcement to tag along and pick up building and safety violations and other problems. So it's really the benefit of collaborating together that gets at that. So I'll leave it at that, but I'd encourage you all to attempt to do that kind of a collaboration.
Thank you, Jeff. Valerie, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, Commander Abbas, I'm just a little bit, I need to clarify. So Katie's saying there was a meth lab that burnt down and our fire chief had to put out the fire, but this has been going on for years. And I'm not understanding why the sheriff isn't bringing in bigger agencies, whether it's DEA or whatever, because these people have been harassing residents around there and intimidating. I think it's kind of scary. And I see Chief Berkey is going to speak, so I really want to hear what he has to say, but it's not up to our fire department to do law enforcement. And it's not up to code enforcement to do law enforcement. It's up to you. Or if it's above your rank or above your agency, go to an agency that can shut this kind of stuff down, because these people are going to burn down our town. And then poor Katie will be the voice, the adult in the room saying, hey, I tried to tell you people, because I don't think a lot of residents know what's going on. But I want to hear what the fire chief has to say. Thank you.
Berkey, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thank you. Excuse me. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this topic. So, I just wanted to clarify really quick. The incident that Katie was mentioning was years ago. So, it was not. I was not functioning in the fire chief role when that fire occurred, and also General Manager McElhaney was not functioning in the role of the general manager at the time. He was a firefighter, and so this again, this was quite a few years back when this happened. I agree with everybody's, you know, issues that have been brought up. I've reached out to code enforcement several times, and spoke with them several times, and trying to get them to react to the issues in that area. And I'm not going to put it all on them. There is more that we can be doing as as a fire department, and that's what I've been trying to kind of navigate, because it's very sensitive. We can't go in there and be unlawful. I have to remain lawful. I have to make sure that I'm abiding by the rules, and so sometimes those rules, believe me, I don't like it either, but they take forever. So, I mean, I'm dealing with all of these properties around Cambria, and it's taking so much time to navigate through these avenues. And so, I'm with you. I understand the immediate need for the cleanup in those areas, but these things can't happen overnight. And that, unfortunately, because I want it to be I want it to be done, and I want our community to be safe. But at the same time, I want to make sure that we're unfortunately, this is not going to be a popular statement, but those people that live on that property, they have rights too. And so we have to make sure that we're protecting their rights, and at the same time protecting the rights that that our citizens outside that area have. So again, it's just a really sensitive area, and believe me when I say, at least from my point of view, from the fire department, we're doing everything we can, and we're trying to work forward in getting this solution. There are roadblocks though, and I'm trying to work through those. So I'll leave that for that.
Thanks, Berkey. Matthew, I see your hand up, and Katie, I saw you raise your hand, but Commander Boss, did you want to say anything before? I just don't want it to keep going on and on and on, and then you don't know what to respond to if you do want to respond.
I'll defer to the next folks that have
Okay,
comments.
okay. Thank you. All right, go ahead, Matthew.
Thank you, Christina. So yeah, tough subject. I was on that fire with Chief Berkey, and that was a few years ago. And I don't know if it was ever confirmed that it was a meth lab or not, but it was definitely a problem structure that caught fire. And we have met with code enforcement a couple different times. We know there's some open cases with these properties in and around that area. And we've worked with code enforcement, we're working with the fire chief, and we're taking a multifaceted approach to this. And like most government organizations, it takes time. And Katie, believe me, you have my utmost support and empathy in terms of the time it's taking to deal with some of these. And from the CCSD perspective, we just have such a limited reach to mitigate these things. It's really up to Chief Berkey to find some type of violation of our municipal code, fire hazard, in which we can deal with it from the CCSD end. And then we're relying on coordination between the county in terms of code enforcement and the sheriff's department. And so while I know it's never a popular answer, just to bear with us, those dialogue and those conversations are ongoing, and we're working through it. So mostly I'm just saying, I understand, I hear you, the chief hears you, and we're working through it.
All right, Katie, you want to go ahead?
Hi, so first of all, I just want to thank you, really from the bottom of my heart, Chief Berkey and Mr. McElhaney. I know you guys have been doing everything you possibly can, and I appreciate you beyond. And I want to be clear that I understand what you're saying 100%. And I'm just grateful for all of the support that you've provided me in my short run here. And I would just want to say that it seems kind of obvious to me that with your hands fairly tied and law enforcement fairly tied, that the way to approach this is probably more from a code enforcement point of view. What I really am grappling with is I've got neighbors who have told me this problem has been ongoing for 25 years. And I'm a year into my residency here. And all I can say from my situation is in the first 10 months I lived here, I had to call Chief Berkey 3 times, and they had to send an engine out 3 times, and there was a fire 3 times. So it's not just the back, history of other stuff. I'm just talking about my situation. And the update that I just gave you where, I'm getting surveyed. I've had another person in town that works for a professional tree company told me that they've been accosted by these folks. So it's just a public safety thing. And, I don't want to live in fear. I lived in Santa Monica and I scrimped and saved in my career for 40 years to be able to buy my tiny little postage stamp of paradise here. And I know what it's like to live in a high crime area. And I did everything in my power to get away. And here I am. And so I just want to live in peace and harmony with the amazing people that I have met in this community. And I have so much to give back to this community. And I just, that's really all I have to say. And I want you to specifically to know how grateful I am for you.
Thank you, Katie. Commander Boss, do you want to, share anything or respond to anything on this?
Again, from our perspective, without putting anybody's specific information out, we are aware that there is an issue on or around Ramsey, and it is an area that is that deputies will provide patrol and will take enforcement action as they see it. Again, people have the right from unreasonable government searches of their person's home or property. That includes everybody. So it is more complicated than us just kicking in somebody's door. There would have to be some legal instrument or some exception to a search warrant that would allow us to do that, to take that type of investigative action. To the statement about there having been a meth lab that was on fire, in reviewing reports dating back over a decade, I'm not seeing any documentation related to the manufacturing of controlled substances on or around Ramsey. So I can't speak more to the meth lab fire. But that's really all I have to add, unless anybody else has anything for me.
Madam Chair, if I might just jump in quickly on this from the county side. I understand completely the frustration of dealing with problematic buildings, and appreciate the community's patience to the extent it can be patient, and appreciate Commander Abbas and Chief Berkey's adherence to due process and the rule of law. Concepts that we should all hold dear, especially in these times. What I can tell you is that my office will be happy to check in with code enforcement, get a current status report, continue to stay close with the chief and the commander, and provide you an update as appropriate, probably by the time of your next meeting. And Ms. Wassenaar, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to contact our office. We are a channel of communications, but there is, the two gentlemen indicated, there is process that has to be respected here, and we will just make sure that we are up to date in understanding where that process is and how fast it can be pursued. So we hope to get this resolved very quickly, and again, happy to maintain communication with you, Madam Chair, and the community on this as we go forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Fox, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, just a quick question. Are there children living in this residence that is so troublesome?
No, I don't. I haven't seen any young children. there are multiple people come and go. There's multiple residents on the property. But I have not seen any small children. But you know, I don't know for sure. You know, I do know that there was my next door neighbor's dog got off their property and ended up falling into some sort of a water, something that had water in it, like a pool of some sort that was on the property, and it drowned. So if that's the case, then there's, you know, like no fencing keeping that out. And my concern is really not, thank you for Brent mentioning children, because like I said in my statement, my concern is we've got little kids in our neighborhood and they are running around having the best time. They play hide and seek, they're riding their bikes, they're just having the best life ever. And if they, you know, little kids want to go inspect a haunted house, and if a child was to have the outcome that that dog had, you know I wouldn't be able to live with myself. So that's just all I have to say. So I'm gonna be quiet from now on.
Okay, thank you guys. Is everybody good if we move on? I just want Supervisor Gibson to be able to fill us in on what he might have happening at a county level.
Would you like such information at this time, Madam Chair?
Yes, I think I would. Yeah.
Happy to move on. Pleasure as always to be with you this evening. Pardon the roughness of my voice. I'm getting over some kind of sinus thing that I acquired in a ocean that was headed toward red tide. It's extremely annoying to me, and I'm sure to those who have to listen to me. There's nothing much Cambria specific that's been happening at the Board of Supervisors. The nearest thing that I can think of is down in Cayucas, where we did have a ribbon cutting on the Cayucas Vets Hall last Monday in August, the Monday before Labor Day. Long awaited project, 9 years there. Cayucas this coming weekend, yes, this coming weekend is celebrating its 150th anniversary, and there will be a champagne toast on Sunday. I believe the timing is somewhere in the midday, actually, but the hall will be open. And if you haven't seen the inside of the restored Cayucas Vets Hall, it's really something to see. In terms of things on the board's agenda that are not Cambria specific, at our meeting of the 19th, we took on some housing things, started on looking at how we can make some adjustments to the standards by which residential multifamily or apartment style buildings can be constructed, trying to encourage that kind of construction, trying to allow it in some more flexible areas, including areas that are zoned commercial, where it might be a secondary use, but perhaps should be elevated in terms of its importance there. We're going to finalize those at our meeting this coming Tuesday, the 23rd, and start a little study session on the question of incentives to get actual affordable housing built in residential multifamily. And those are means by which we can generate revenue in order to invest with our nonprofit housing partners, to like People Self-Help, who's poised to do the Cambria, second phase of the Cambria project up by the middle school. And so the question is, we set a set of standards. We can offer developers incentives to put more housing in there, to put housing that's either affordable or to pay impact fees, so that those fees can accumulate and be used to invest in leverage money for affordable housing. And this conversation is going to carry on well toward the end of the year. So that's all good. The other thing on the agenda is the wrapping up of the last fiscal year that ended at the 30th of June, just passed. We finally closed the books, hit the adding machines, found $3.8 million more than we had estimated we were going to find. Those monies are going to be reinvested in different projects and reserves, and basically used to stabilize the finances of the county further as we face really unprecedented times, difficulties with the state budget, and of course all the chaos that's occurring at the federal level. Also, again, not Cambria specific, but nearby, the county's Public Works Department has stepped in to assist the San Simeon CSD in stabilizing its operation under what amounts to a mutual aid agreement that infrastructure operators in the state have. We're there to help them get their feet on the ground as regards their finances, so that they can successfully keep their operation going. And that's going to be a transition into, I think you're well aware that the San Simeon CSD is considering, is under the process of dissolution, with the county being the expected agency to take over operation of their water and wastewater operations up there. So that that process continues apace. We'll probably be able to provide an update at the next regular San Simeon CSD meeting, which will happen, I think, in the first week of October. Beyond that, Madam Chair, if it's your interest, I'm happy to expand on my comments regarding offshore wind. In doing that, let me give it just a little bit of context. First of all, the offshore wind project is not a county decision. As you can imagine, these proposals are based on leases in federal waters with state waters intervening. And in fact, when you look at what the County Board of Supervisors would have to do, there would be effectively, so far as I can see, no votes that the county supervise. We don't have authority in any of the decisions that might be forthcoming. That said, there is an extensive decision-making process under the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management to evaluate the proposals of any company that wants to move forward. These proposals will go through a complete environmental assessment, where the term is substantial evidence in the record will be used to assess what impacts they are going to have should they be constructed. And of course, as you probably well know, given the Trump administration's animosity toward any kind of renewable energy, it's not at all clear what the path forward is. But as to my comments about misinformation, I've heard the REACT Alliance promote. I can give you 3 examples off the top of my head, and I'll be as brief as I can with that. There have been assertions that the geophysical surveys that are used to characterize the seafloor around where platforms might be located were going to harm or kill marine life. I've heard folks go so far as to indicate that it might sterilize the ocean. That happens to be an area where I have some expertise. My PhD is in exploration seismology. I did have a 15-year research career in that topic, and I can tell you that any assertion that marine life is going to face significant harm is not substantiated. These surveys are conducted under protocols that require monitoring of marine life. Surveys themselves are conducted at frequencies that are above the hearing range of marine mammals, and are at levels that should not affect them at all. These surveys have in fact been used for years, as various studies have been conducted to evaluate the seismic risk around the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant, and so they bear note. I also continue to hear the assertion that the deaths of marine mammals on the East Coast are caused by wind projects that have been established up there. There is, at this point, to my knowledge, no peer-reviewed science that establishes that causal link between the deaths of marine mammals, or even the disorientation of marine mammals, or any other sea life, and the offshore wind. That is most recently confirmed by a look that I had at the NOAA website as regards the effects of these projects. And again, in any evaluation of a potential project going forward, those things are going to be studied. And again, real science of substantial evidence is going to be used to determine them. And finally, I hear the Alliance often assert that the Port of San Luis in particular is going to be industrialized. And I've seen those assertions tried to be bolstered by a photo mock-up of a deep water assembly port that would cover numerous acres of the open water of Port San Luis. That proposal was put forward in an early feasibility study, and it has been definitively rejected. And any of the studies that are ongoing in any of the ports, that be either Morro Bay, Port San Luis, or the part of Port San Luis that Cal Poly has facilities in, are talking about minor infrastructure, but the potential of minor infrastructure improvements that would handle vessels that are no larger than vessels that have used these ports for many years. So those are the specifics that I have. Again, I don't know how much time you want this council to spend discussing it, since, again, it is a process that is conducted through the federal regulatory agencies. And those were the specifics, Madam Chair, that I had to offer. I'm here to answer the public's questions.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. I see two hands are up, Ted and Kermit. I will just say we have a lot to get through. I know this is important, so I want to honor closing out the conversation, but please just keep in mind that everybody's here and everybody's time is valuable. So go ahead, Ted. You're muted.
The business of effects on sea life are still ongoing, and NOAA has refused to do ear necropsies on the animals that have been washing up on shore in very large numbers. There is a significant case to be made by a number of folks that have done considerable research on this matter. And so I would debate what NOAA has to say. In fact, it is extremely weird to me to imagine that hundreds and hundreds of miles of chain and heavily charged cable hanging subsurface off our coast would have absolutely no effect on whale migration in this area. That's one part of it. As far as federal versus state, the debate on the 19th was a matter of extending the time. There was a study, apparently $1 million, that came down the pipe for study of industrialization and the effects of this project upon our coast. And you basically decided to extend that. I'm not sure why, since the CEC has been doing work on that down in Avila. If I'm to understand you correctly here, that the CEC study basically is no longer relevant because the Avila industrialization is simply off the table. That's very interesting, and of course that only brings me further to where are they going to bring these monstrous things in, and how are they going to service them? There are so many open questions on this, and yes, the county doesn't make final decisions. I get that, but the county is involved, And I want my representative, I want my supervisor to be on the right side of history with this whole matter. So that's why I'm bringing it to your attention. If there are other issues that you consider misrepresentation, I would like to know what they are. And Blake has my email, and I'll be happy to entertain a much more lengthy response to what you've said. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chad. Because we're a community meeting, I just want to say the right side of history is up to each person to determine for themselves. But I appreciate if you guys want to talk about this offline, and if you want to report back to us on anything, that's more than welcome. I just don't want to keep with the back and forth. Kermit, do you want to go ahead?
I want to talk about the possible housing project, second or low income housing that's been proposed and is headed our way, and in the sense of we've had Burton Circle or Burton Drive has inadequate pedestrian access. We've discussed but could not afford or could not maintain anything in on the interior, like the old Stagecoach Road that would come from Eaton down to the Tin City area. But since we have more low-income housing proposed in that area, what are the chances of tacking on pedestrian access to some of these projects as they seek funding and some of these things should pay for themselves a little bit, but for pedestrian access. So that's my question to you, I guess.
Yeah.
How do we tack on some pedestrian access down Burton Drive? Yeah.
Find a big pot of money somewhere, Mr. Johansson. It's that's the real crux of it. The pedestrian improvements down Burton Drive remain on the county's list of things to do.
I know they do.
They are not connected with this. The permit actually to build the second phase of it's Cambria. I don't know if it's Cambria Pines Apartments. It's Cambria something. Blocking on it's that, but that second phase of 33 units has already had its permit approved. There's no condition that requires the pedestrian access. So these things will move in parallel. It's certainly, I know, a long-held vision of the community to have better pedestrian access. We continue to try to find ways to do that, and in fact, we have the inimitable Miss Carolyn Berg about to present on what SLOCOG might do with a half-cent sales tax should said half-cent sales tax be approved, make it to the ballot and be approved, and that would be the kind of project that those kinds of funds would be able to facilitate.
Well, I know that, but it's just the fact that that project arrived on its own with its own money, and all our, that 1% is going 55 different ways already, and we're watering that down. I don't understand how we ever this stuff never gets tied into that approval process. They aren't tasked with, if it was a developer building that thing, they'd have to build their own roads. Why aren't they aren't we able to task them with putting in safe public access that they will be using to access downtown area?
It's a matter of what's called nexus and proportionality, and so any project is subject to impact fees for its impacts, but those fees have to be proportional to the impact that is anticipated from the project. And in this instance, there would be an impact fee associated with the vehicle traffic. There is not a county process by which we assess impact fees for pedestrian impacts of projects. A little harder to estimate. And so there just isn't a framework by which we can attach creating that entire pedestrian access connected to one single project. It is a consequence of the post-Prop 13 world that California has lived in for so long, but we're constantly at efforts to try to find those resources to do those kinds of good things, Kermit. That is an absolutely worthy project, and I understand frustration in not being able to see it come to realization at this point. But we're just going to have to go alternate routes on this.
All right, thank you, Kermit. Thank you, Bruce. I have one question, and Carolyn, you can jump in if you're gonna cover this, but in terms of this tax, right? Like, my understanding is kind of, I guess I never really understand how it can get passed, because the cities essentially would have to vote in favor of it, but they've already kind of voted in favor of their own tax. And so I'm just trying to understand how this works. Like, how do we ever have a shot at something like this being passed? And I don't know, you might be prepared to talk about it, Carolyn, but if not, can you or Bruce give us that insight?
Let me, I won't make Ms. Bergs wade into the politics of this whole thing.
Thanks.
It really is a political matter. What we need to do if this measure is going to be successful is demonstrate that it has substantial benefit to everybody, regional and local. And the cities will be consulted on this. We have had legislation run and passed that allows us to raise what was a constraining ceiling on how much sales tax we can charge in this county, so that the half-cent that might be proposed for the county-wide tax doesn't bust the ceiling. So the matter is, and what I think, what I know Carolyn will talk about, is the public outreach efforts to see what it is the public wants to see, and can a measure be put together that is going to address needs and desires that all our communities have. So yeah, the bar is high on this. It fell just short in 2016, but the board of the Council of Governments feels it's important enough and beneficial enough to the county to try again. So we're in the process.
Okay, thank you. I think, I'm sure, I know you guys are getting calls to your office about incorporation and all these things from Cambrians, and it's like, I guess my concern is it feels like the cities are kind of double dipping, because they didn't vote in favor of the tax, but then they get our TOT tax, through the general fund, but it is this kind of weird situation where then we have to find the pot of money, because we're unincorporated and because we can't get the cities to vote for the tax. So just however we can support that as a council, whatever direction we can get, in the coming months, we're here for, because we're kind of in a pickle. So, all right. Well, thank you, Bruce. If everybody's okay, we'll move on to Carolyn, and thank you for being so patient with us.
Oh, thanks for having me here tonight, and a perfect segue. So thank you, Kermit and Supervisor Gibson and Chairperson. I'm happy to be here. I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen. I don't know if whoever's in charge of that can allow that. In the meantime, if that's possible, just let me know and then I'll turn it on. Otherwise, I'll just go with talking points and no slides, which is also fine. Aha.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Are you seeing the screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, as I was alluded to earlier, I'm Carolyn Berg. I am with Coble Collaborative, a local firm working throughout the county on a number of community initiatives, but I was brought on by SLOCOG to help them with their public outreach related to looking at local roads first. How do you improve the transportation system throughout the entire San Luis Obispo County area? And what would that look like in terms of developing an investment plan and selecting projects that matter to communities, as Supervisor Gibson mentioned earlier. And so that's really the bulk of what I want to talk about tonight. It's about a 10-minute presentation, so I think what I'll do is it seems to fit your format anyhow, but I'll fly through that, and then at the end we can have conversation and questions, and I'll answer what I can and can take back whatever I can't to SLOCOG to send follow-up information. For those of you who might not be familiar with SLOCOG, I thought I'd start there quickly. So I heard a couple of newer residents. So San Luis Obispo Council of Governments is essentially your regional planning agency, and they are comprised of representation across all 7 cities and the unincorporated areas of the county. So kind of fits your questions earlier, Chairperson. This body is really meant to look at what is that collaborative space and what can be done across communities. And their intention and mission is to plan for the region's future. They look at the anticipated population growth that's expected over the coming decades and what needs come along with that, mostly focused on transportation, but also on housing. And they're really tasked with improving the transportation systems with all of the cities and county and transit partners and Caltrans. And they do that by helping to go out and find funding and work with those partner agencies to plan and produce what's needed as background information and then bring funding into the region. So it's just a little bit about who is behind this initiative and the investment planning that's happening right now. So every 4 years or so, SLOCOG conducts a regional transportation planning effort. And again, that's to look ahead. What do we know about our transportation systems now throughout the region? And what are the needs when we look down the road, so to speak? And so back in 2023, they went through their planning process, adopted a new plan, and essentially looking throughout all of the communities in the region, identified a little over, not a little, a lot over, it's $5.4 billion of transportation needs. And when they assess our typical revenue streams coming into the region and the communities individually, there's about $3 billion that they would anticipate coming in at that same period of time. So that creates a big funding shortfall. And that really begs the question of, why are we seeing a funding shortfall and what do we as a region do about it? Because there are so many community needs. So part of that is really because of one of our major sources of revenue. And some of you may be familiar with the gas tax. That's largely how one of our largest revenue sources in this region and many others throughout our state. And when you look back in history, the gas tax in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, year over year, it was increasing. There's more cars, more people, more gas being used. So that meant a steady income and revenue that could then go towards local communities and roads for repairs and improvements and highway projects. And then in, since 2000 and on, there's been a shift. And they're good in terms of for the environment, but it's been challenging for the revenue needed to fund our systems. So we saw gas mileage improving in regular cars. We saw increased purchasing and use of hybrids and EVs. And overall, those collectively mean that there's a trending downward year over year of that gas tax revenue. So that becomes problematic when we look at how are we going to fund local projects. When we think about what does that mean? As we lose revenue as a region, what does that look like for us as a community members here? And just like the congestion shown on the slide, it really means projects start stacking up one behind the other. There's less money to use, so it means it takes longer to get to the priority projects, whether that's highway improvements and on-ramps and off-ramps, or safety improvements and safety corridors, repairs, simple repavements, things like that. They continue to get deferred because it takes longer to accumulate the funds necessary to pursue projects. And, that has costs in terms of increasing costs of materials over time, but also changes, just for all of us as citizens here. It changes your quality of life in terms of pedestrian access, I heard earlier, and time spent in congestion and the like. So it just accumulatively, we feel those costs over time of not being able to fix our transportation system in the ways that are needed. So what are some other regions doing? SLOCOG, like I said, has been a good funding partner, trying to work with all the communities to pull in funding as much as possible. And they do go out and capture in our fair share of grants, but we just aren't able to compete and bring in the magnitude that some other regions are. And that really comes down to they're essentially voter-approved self-help measures, or dedicated transportation taxes. So bringing in sales tax that is then only used within the region where voters passed it, and is then put specifically towards 99% of the funds go straight into transportation projects. So 25 counties throughout the whole state of California have one of these measures in place. That's a majority of Californians. And you can see on the screen here, SLOCOG did some analysis to look just in the last 9 or 10 years, our neighboring counties along the Central Coast who have these measures in place already, what have they brought in? So as an example, Santa Cruz locally through just sales tax was able to pull in around $200 million of local funds that go directly into the projects they want to build. And then they could use that. The more money you have in hand, the more you can bring in of state and federal grant funding. So they were able to leverage that close to double, getting $350 million brought back into their county as well. And then on the higher end of the spectrum, we see Santa Barbara down in the south where they brought in $458 million, leveraged that towards almost $750 million. And so they're looking at over $1 billion going directly into their transportation needs. For SLOCOG, they and all the communities here, I should say, we didn't have a tax measure. As you mentioned, that was something pursued, about 10 years ago that just narrowly missed. And had we been, we did not generate that local funding here, but had we had a measure in place, SLOCOG did some analysis to see what would have been drawn in from the eligible sales tax, and it would have been around $270 million in that time of just local money and tourists, anyone visiting the area, but that's the funding that would have come into the region. And they estimate they could have leveraged that towards about $430 million. It's estimates, of course, because we didn't have the money, so we can't know what it would have generated, but that's about average looking across the state. So as we look ahead and consider, we're not trying to look backward and, repeat history or think about that too much. It's really looking ahead. We know there's a gap in revenue. We know there's still needs throughout the community. You've spoken to a few already. And I think SLOCOG, as Supervisor Gibson mentioned, is really exploring, what would it look like to pursue a 0.5% sales tax that's dedicated to transportation funds. It would be voter approved, so that would go through a normal voter ballot measure, assuming that the board pursues this. That sales tax measure would be collected region-wide, so across all the cities and unincorporated areas for likely 20 years, though they're still studying that. And the proposal is that if that's pursued and passed by voters, the funds generated year over year would then be allocated across the 4 subregions, so the North Coast being one of those, in a fair and equitable manner. And currently they're looking at a percentage of funds based on percentage of population. So in that case, it would be about 14% to the North Coast that's then directly funneled into the unincorporated and incorporated areas in a fair and equitable way. So they're still in the works on that, as was mentioned earlier, and any money that comes in through that funding is then protected by law, must be used within our region, can't be sent elsewhere in the state, and would be used within communities here, and then would be subject to all of the accountability laws that surround having a measure like this in place, such as having reporting, community oversight, transparency, and other things like that. So next opportunity for that. Oh, and another point SLOCOG likes to point out is, it's not just citizens paying into this then, and as gas tax usually just means gas using cars, but instead we're also now bringing in visitors contributing into our transportation systems as well. So if this were pursued, the next opportunity SLOCOG would have to work with the cities and county would be to put on the November 2026 ballot. So that's what's being considered right now. And as Supervisor Gibson mentioned, what I'm here doing tonight is really helping with outreach, talking to each of the communities about what's needed in the North Coast, what's needed throughout the region, since I know most of you or all of you don't just stay within your town. We're constantly moving between areas. So I'd love to be able to hear from all of you about what feel like the pressing needs here. And I'll just say a few notes quickly. There's also a survey at the website I dropped into the chat earlier that you and your neighbors and friends and colleagues, everyone can take this, and it helps to inform SLOCOG on what do communities want in their area and what's important to us. It's, our money, and we want to put it towards the projects that matter. And I'll also say there's going to be a number of public workshops starting on September 27th in SLO, and then all throughout the week of October 6th. And then they'll finalize that process with a virtual meeting in middle of October. So all of those are on the website as well. But as I mentioned tonight, I'll try to answer questions best I can, and then take back any feedback you have, in particular on transportation related needs, whether that's transit, senior carpools, highways, local roads, you name it. I'd love to hear it, and I will document all that and take it back to SLOCOG. So thank you very much for your time tonight, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Carolyn. It looks like Karen, you have a question. Go ahead. And you're muted.
Oh, you're not muted, but can't hear you.
Weird. Let me see, Carolyn, I'll make you
Maybe I'll stop sharing.
a co-host and see if that works. Karen. Nope. Wait, Kermit, can we try this really fast? Kermit, can you talk?
Oh.
Yes, a question, Carolyn.
Oh, shoot. Wait, Kermit, 1 second, 1 second. Karen, do you want to work on, see if there's something going on with your mic? Yes. Okay, and then if you want to log out and come join the Zoom again, we can do that too. And Kermit, you want to go ahead while Karen?
Yes, Carolyn, when you've got 3 different tiers of taxes, federal, state, local, and where in the mix was all this comes as I understand sales tax, that's everything in the community of Cambria that gets purchased, including the food if it's prepared. Theoretically, we have a boost in recreation tourism that spends money locally. And so if it gets spent, recreation tourism gets spent in Cambria, in our farm bars and restaurants, how do we know that money is not just sales tax throughout the county? Do areas get the benefit of generating sales tax, and how do they know that they did?
Well, I can't speak to, and I don't know if Supervisor Gibson knows that, but I'm not sure in terms of having that knowledge of sales tax money in general staying within each community when it comes to unincorporated areas. In cities, it would, because they're have their defined boundaries. But I'm not sure for the unincorporated areas, but I can certainly ask that question and follow up. I will say for this, like I mentioned earlier, if they pursued this, so a 0.5% on top of the existing sales tax. So in Cambria, unincorporated, I believe you're at 7.25% sales tax, being added 0.5%. And then throughout the county, it'd be additive onto whatever their current percentage sales tax is. And that money would all go into a regional pot of funding only for this transportation use. It's not able to be used in other ways. And because the board's still in the exploring phase and decision-making comes later, this is just a proposal. So keep that in mind, but they're currently looking at using the funds or splitting them out across the subregions by percent population, not necessarily what sales tax was generated where, but instead pulling it all in. So if San Luis generated a bunch of money, that wouldn't necessarily matter. It would still come into the larger pot and then be distributed back in this easier to understand percent of population way throughout the region. And I think if say $700 million were generated between the tax measure and grants brought in, then 14% of the population being in North Coast, that would then bring in, say, around $100 million of funding that would then be used just within the North Coast subregion of San Luis County, if that makes sense. And I'm sorry I can't answer in general how unincorporated sales tax works, but I can definitely follow up.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but it also sounds like it's kind of uncertain. I really don't want to pay extra sales tax just to build some more fine bike lanes in San Luis Obispo. And I want to know if it's going to come to my area, the purposes we have here. And so I guess before I would vote for some of these things, I'd vote for against the last one. I'm more inclined to vote for this one because I really do want some, changes for our communities and so forth. But again, I see it sliding, a very sliding pool. Now, do you work for SLOCOG or you work for the county?
I'm a consultant. I used to work for the county. That's how I know Supervisor Gibson.
Okay.
I'm just
So,
consulting to help them.
but SLOCOG is who divvies this stuff up? SLOCOG or the counties, or it's in a giant meeting somewhere and they shuffle papers and figures come and go. How does this happen?
Yeah, so there's an investment plan that's under development. So we're doing outreach. I just conducted focus groups to hear from, including from folks in Cambria. And then they're doing statistically valid polling of the overall voting base in the area. All of that will then feed into information to SLOCOG board. So it's SLOCOG board who's talking about this. And they will then look at, based on what they're hearing, based on what they know about the transportation needs throughout the region, but more importantly, what the communities want in each area. So Cambria being one, Cayucas, City of Slow, and others. What do they want to see? And then they'll develop an investment plan, which lays out more of the specifics, like where does this funding go if it's generated? And so there is that level of detail coming, but this is part of the, I guess I'll call it a listening tour, me coming and listening and pulling back in what projects matter, or expressing to them, Kermit, to your point, the importance that people understand what money's coming back to us. How do we know it's coming back to us, and that transparency? So I think it's really important to hear. Like I said, they are leaning towards this sub-regional split based on population, which would ensure that the money comes back to the North Coast. And then be split out by community.
No, it just ensures it goes to the areas of most population. We have the biggest area to blow all the money, and the city has the biggest population to spend it on more bike lanes. So I'm not thrilled yet. This has not gotten a chill in my bones that we're going to see anything greater than what we currently see.
Yeah, I would say I'm hearing what you're saying, and I think what you're saying, and I may just not be verbalizing it well, but I think you're on the same page as SLOCOG. They are creating geographic areas where the funding would then be split and set off for just the North Coast. So they are, so that it doesn't get sucked into other subregions and used there. So they would be splitting out, like I said, with that example of if there were $700 million, how 100 million would then be looked at for the North Coast alone.
But there is no way of tracking how much sales comes from an area.
Yeah.
Sales tax comes from an area. It's all based on population right now. I mean, is there a way to tell if community of Cambria, the not incorporated area like Cambria, how much sales tax is generated in our area?
Yeah, I'll ask that. Yeah, thanks for asking that, and I appreciate you.
The answer is yes. You can.
Thank you.
The answer is yes, because it's reported by each individual business, and then it can be aggregated however you want to aggregate it. You can do it around census tracts, around probably the census tract makes the most sense because that's a known geographical area.
Hmm.
And the county gets its sales tax based on population in the first place. The investment plan that Carolyn mentioned is really the key thing, because that's winds up being what the politicians represent to the voters to get them to vote. And so if a project we're interested in is on that plan, that's really important. If it's not on that plan, chances are we're not going to see it.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. And that's why I'm so want to hear the projects that matter to you. And I did capture the earlier pedestrian access you mentioned on Burton and other parts of Cambria. But yeah, I think important to identify those projects. So thanks for offering that, Jeff. And Chairperson, okay.
Yeah, thank you, Carolyn. I just really quick before Karen checks her mic and possibly ask if you're if your presentation is available, we can put it on our website. I'm just wondering, it sounds like some of this stuff and some of these questions that we have, there'll be a period when more information is presented and then we're asked to weigh in, so things can be tweaked to kind of improve the chances of success for this. Is that, am I hearing
Christine,
that?
Christine, it is on the website under transportation.
Oh, this updated one?
Her plan in
Okay.
general with more detail.
Okay,
Whether or not it's accurate according to numbers, I don't know, but it has more detail.
okay.
Project specific.
But
We
so-
can share the presentation, yes. To answer your question, in short, we can share
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
And so I guess for all of us, I'm trying to understand like the process for the next year, let's say.
Well,
Like,
Carolyn, maybe outline the timeline. So you're doing surveys and focus groups now, then what? And then when is the anticipated voting time that you're shooting for?
Yeah, so I'm just pulling up the SLOCOG staff presentation. So yeah, summer and into this early part of fall, we're doing all this engagement and listening. So this is when we want to hear all the projects that then SLOCOG and their consulting team working on that funding investment plan. In the fall, like I said, first step is to do a statistically valid polling initiative. So that'll go through calls and website surveys, related input, to then test different ballot measures and languages that tracks with community members and voters. And then in the later fall, I don't know dates because they're still working on those, SLOCOG staff will be going to the different cities and the SLOCOG board and county board to get their input on the draft investment plan. Again, I don't know where in the October to December timeframes that will be, but we can follow up with that once SLOCOG has that settled in so that and being unincorporated community residents, you could go to the county board or SLOCOG board to weigh in and provide input at those as well, or talk to Supervisor Gibson and other electeds in advance of those meetings if you'd like. And then through winter and into early 2026, they'll be working on any adjustments to the investment plan based on what they hear from all those different government agencies and the communities within them. And then in, I think they were looking at the February to April timeframe for then doing the final adoption process. And it's really SLOCOG board ultimately that's asked to adopt this and approve it. And then it's sent to all the other jurisdictions, so the cities and the county as well. That's if they're targeting for the November 2026 ballot, which at this time, that's what they're looking at. So I don't know if that would change at all based on polling, but right now the whole timeline is based on if they are pursuing a November 2026 ballot initiative, that would then allow spring 2026 and beyond to start moving a measure forward onto a ballot, getting it out for voters to understand and the like. Hopefully that answers the question on timing. And like I said, we can follow up with details. I can ask SLOCOG's team to do that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I just don't want us to like miss a chance to represent ourselves. I know Kermit's on it, but yeah. So thank you. Karen, do you want to?
Is my mic working?
Yeah,
Oh,
go
good.
ahead.
I just wanted to ask, and I put it in the chat, whether this presentation, Carolyn, is on the SLOCOG website. And that answer is yes, correct?
I don't know if it's posted on the Local Roads First website or not. Kermit says it is, but I haven't seen it.
I was thinking the SLOCOG website, not Local Roads First.
Yeah, it's on the SLOCOG one, as well as we have the old SLOCOG presentation on our website under transportation on our site.
But I would say
thank you.
Yeah, we'll send you this one just so you have the latest, because I know some shifts have happened over the last few years as they've been exploring.
Oh, good. So if you send that to Christina, then she can put it on our website.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I don't see any other hands. Are we ready to let Carolyn go? Okay, Carolyn, thank you so much for your work on this. And, for being here.
Yeah,
Okay,
I appreciate the time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so We have a lot to get through. Do we want to take a break and come back with a commitment to work faster?
My presentation can be very fast.
Is anybody, Karen, you're the judge on this. Do you wanna go-
Is that presentation for the Lighthouse Century?
Yes.
Correct.
Well, why don't we do that and then have a break? Is that okay, Christina?
Yeah. No, you're my gauge on this. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
All
Thank you.
right. So I'm Marianne Gustafson from the San Luis Obispo Bike Club. We have 650 members around the county, and we do 2 bike events every year. Sorry. So anyways, so we do 2 major bike events every year. This is our 54th annual Lighthouse Century. And as I'll show for you, we
Real quickly, can everybody see the screen that I'm sharing?
oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so anyways, the event, okay, can we go to the next slide? Okay, so it starts at Morro Bay High School on Saturday, September 27th at 7 a.m. and it goes until 5 p.m. It has routes of 40, 65, 70, and 100 miles along Highway 1. The longest course goes 100 miles as it climbs up Highway 46 and then back down and meets Highway 1. Anyways, the course is out and back, so riders can select at any time the course that they're going to go upon, weather, distance, sites. If they want to go see the elephants, seals, or whatever, they can do that. And we expect about 800 mostly experienced riders. Can we go to the next slide? Anyways, we have 5 rest stops along the route. And so the Rocky Creek one is off of Highway 46. We're going to be in Cambria with using both Shamo Park, and also we have a cooperation with the folks that do Pine Dorado. So one is on one side of one and one is on the other side. We also have a Cypress Overlook rest stop where the elephant seals are, and also La Cruz Rock rest stop at beyond the lighthouse for the folks that are going 75 and 100 miles. We don't close any roads, so we don't disrupt people both on your local roads or along Highway 1. It's hosted by our bike club, but we have volunteers from local bike shops, ham radio clubs, Bike Slow, youth groups, the whole thing. And so the headquarters is at Morro Bay High School. We also have a very, very tasty post ride meal also. And so we're expecting it to sell out. Next slide. Anyway, so we have 2 CHP units that will be monitoring both auto and bicycle behavior. So we're really focused on safety. We also have the Morro Bay Police volunteers directing traffic. We have SAG vehicles patrolling along all the routes, ham operators at the rest stops, bike mechanics, volunteers, you name it, we're going to be there. Anyways, the average age for riders and volunteers is about 60. And we ask anyone, if you're sick, please stay home. We love you, but especially with COVID coming back, please stay home. Okay, next slide. So what do we do with the money? So the registration fees and also the clothing purchases, we help to fund local groups like Bike Slow County, Morro Bay High School and Volunteer Police, Cal Poly Cycling, 2 of the radio clubs. In 2024, 70% of people that came to our event paid for accommodations. And while 73 of the riders stayed in Morro Bay, because that's the start and the end of it, we do know that people come up the coast and just want the charm of Cambria and Moonstone Beach, etc. So about 30% of riders are new to the event, 90% would recommend to a friend, and 92% of riders are planning on riding this year also. Next. Okay, and so just if you want to show the map. It's just, no. It's just let's see here. That should hopefully be it. There we go. So it just shows you starting in Morro Bay, it goes up the La Cruz rest stop, goes past the lighthouse, and you can see the different the distances for the different routes, and especially the folks that are going 100, they go all the way up to Rocky Creek rest stop on Highway 46, and we're going to have people, those folks that are going 65, 70, and 100 miles coming through Cambria, and your rest stops are really, really valued. And everybody says when they come, especially the Chamal rest stop, how it's so beautiful, and they love just to go along the beach and take a good rest. So does anybody have any questions? Okay, well, anyways, thank you. We're really looking forward to having our riders come through Cambria. We appreciate all your support, and I know a lot of people have a great time in Cambria, so thank you.
Oh, it looks like Harry might have a question, or Vice President Farmer.
Yeah, hi, my name's Harry, and I just wanted to ask you, what is your full name? I know you said it pretty quick and I didn't write it down.
Okay, Mary Ann Gustafson. So I'm the president of the bike club, so you can get my name off the Slow BC website too.
All right, thank you so much, and all the best.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate all the support.
Thank you. All right, you guys, Karen, you tell me 5 or 10 on this
Oh,
break.
5. 5 is
Okay.
fine, isn't it?
Okay, yeah, and everybody can recommit to being prompt. Okay. All right, so we'll see you at 7:38-ish. Thank you, guys. Okay. All righty. Is everybody ready for this? Let's see. Do we have, Matthew, are you back?
I'm here.
Okay, cool. I think we're gonna move into land use, if you would be my trusted presenter while we go through this.
Christina, before you do that,
Yeah,
can I verify that there is no report from the Fire Safe Focus Group?
no, David was gonna hop on if something, super important came up, but,
Okay. Okay, thanks.
yeah. Thank you, Karen. All right, checking that off, checking that off. And who's ready for this? My hope is that it is not controversial. I feel like with all the emails we've gotten, gotten a consensus here. So let's just run through it and hope. Do we still have a quorum? Actually, I should ask.
Yes, we do. I just looked.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this first application is, as you can see, for 5249 Nottingham Drive in Cambria. Oh, let me mute for 1 second. You can read this while I mute. All right, here we go. Hopefully they haven't done that all night. So of course, when I'm unmuted. Okay, so this is not an application for a seawall. This is actually an application to restore what was kind of already existing, the natural features prior to this. In our opinion, it's pretty non-controversial. As you can see, it says restoration includes removal of all man-made materials from the face of the bluff. Remaining rock material will be indistinguishable from other surrounding natural materials. No new development is proposed, and therefore no new stormwater discharges are anticipated. Okay, Dane, do you want to just feel free to interrupt me? I see your hand.
Oh, thank you, Chairperson Galloway. Just respecting the order. But
Oh yeah, thanks.
my name, in case you haven't met me, my name is Dane Mueller. I'm a planner with the county. I'll be here to answer any questions I can for these land use projects. I'm the project manager for this one, and I think we have three. We're reviewing 3 land use projects tonight. I would recommend the 2 seawalls. We would kind of rope into the same review in the interest of time, because the permitting path is going to be pretty similar. It's essentially just restoration of unpermitted seawalls back to the cliff's natural state, and that includes, and this is for both projects, geology review and.
Can I interrupt you really quick, Dane?
Go ahead.
We didn't have the understanding that these 2 were the same at all. We had the understanding that one is a restoration of a seawall and one is a restoration of the natural environment from this failed seawall, and the other is a failed seawall that's applying to be permitted to construct a new seawall. So we thought these were 2 almost completely separate situations.
Understandable. And I'll have to go back and read the submittals for Andy Knighton's project. He's the other project manager for the other seawall.
Yeah.
I think based on the county issued information hold letters, they're really similar. And it's gonna include restoration of these bluffs from a coastal act and planning standpoint. Unless seawalls were there prior to the coastal act, they aren't going to be supported by the coastal commission or geologist review or biological review. So I think maybe it's like this one, the project description is still subject to change. I know the geologist recommended they even remove all man-made materials. In the bottom there in the second paragraph, note, it says they're still going to remain. So these projects are always in motion, but I would say that both projects are going to take a similar path.
Yes. Okay. Well, we're just going to work through our process because we need to vote on each individual one, but we've done a lot of talking prior to this, so I think it should move quickly. Okay, and then next page. This is the property, Nottingham Drive. That's the location of the existing rock wall. Next slide. As you can see, we're becoming familiar with SRAs. Jeff Bloom, give me 1 second. This rock wall is within an SRA, sensitive resource area, if everybody wants to forget, post Leopold. Okay, next slide. View from the north, or view to the north, view to the south. Next slide. NCAC recommendation, a yes vote will confirm the recommendation of approval. This is a great example of a comprehensive solution for cleanup and maintenance while being sensitive to the look and feel of the bluff. And we recommend approval. Jeff Lentz waited on this, Jeff Bloom, Ted Key, Brian Glusevich, and here we are. Jeff Bloom, do you want to go ahead with your question before I hope we entertain a motion on this?
Sure. Dane, I was just curious what the information hold was. You started to explain it. Is it the same on both? And what are the key things you're looking for still from the applicants?
Can we wait 20-second timeout on that question, Jeff Bloom? Let's stay focused on this project because they're not, the information hold isn't the same on both. And I do not want to get into mixing all sorts of things. So Dane, do you want to respond on this project?
Yeah, absolutely. Respect your processes. We're reviewing them separately, so I'll just answer for this one. The info hold items, I think generally speaking, if you have a seawall, and it's unpermitted, you have an interest in keeping it. So what we struggle with sometimes is applicants wanting to leave parts of the seawall in the project when a CEQA class 33 exemption requires a full restoration. I believe both of the projects are in response to code enforcement violations called in by the neighbors, but I don't want to compare the two projects too much if they're not being motioned on together. But the info hold is available on the permit slow page. I hope everyone knows where that's at. If not, I'd be happy to link it below in the chat.
Thank you, Dane. Jeff, does that answer your question, at least for this project?
Not really, Dane. Does the information hold, is it because it's missing technical things or because you don't intend to support it regardless of what they do?
The info hold, it's always going to be, a list. If you complete it, then, your project is approved and we'll take it to hearing. I think given where the submittal is at with this one, the county's probably going to support it. That said, I haven't completed the hearing materials, and that's really what the final recommendation is on my behalf when I send those to my supervisor. So I think this one's definitely going in a good direction. It was accompanied by a geologic study from a qualified professional that was peer reviewed by the county geologist. A biologist recommended the seed mixture used that's going to be implemented as a condition of approval. Additionally, there was an archaeological resources assessment completed for this project, or for the site already. So as far as the information hold items requested, I think it was just having the applicant revise the project description to be consistent with that class 33 CEQA exemption, restoration of the complete bluff side. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think so. So Christina, well, if we lost you, but
no, I haven't given up yet.
In light of that, I would make a recommendation that we approve this first one.
Great.
Since you want to split them.
Since what, Jeff?
Since you want to split them.
Well, we have to split them because we.
That's fine.
Okay, so thank you. Do I have a second?
Kermit seconds.
Thank you, Kermit. Any negatives? Okay, I appreciate that, you guys. All right, Karen, did you get what you need on this one? Oops, you're muted. Sorry.
I'm sorry. because there's an info hold, I didn't hear whether the motion is subject to release of that and re-inspection or re-review.
I don't have that listed in the recommendations.
Okay, all right.
Only because this application seems or appears, and Dane, you can correct me, to be more of a restoration of the natural bluffscape.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. So it was Jeff who made the motion, yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, so, and thank you, Kermit. And I think I asked any negatives and I didn't see any, but shout out if somebody has an issue. Let me see. Okay. Okay. So moving on to 2095 Sherwood Drive. I'm sure many of you are familiar. This is at the Harvey Street Beach access point. And Jeff Bloom, your hand is still up, so I don't know if you have a question or if you want to put it down so I know when you have a question, but essentially why I stated that there was a difference is because this is an application to repair and replace a 22-foot section of a failed unpermitted seawall. This project will result in the disturbance of approximately 4,200 square feet of the 8,098 square foot site. This is on info hold. I do have a screenshot of some of the items in the info hold later in this presentation. And there is talk that this project is going to be taken over by the Coastal Commission. So next slide. That's the location. You can see the Harvey Street Beach access just to orient yourself on Sherwood Drive. Next slide, please. Some visuals of the site. Next slide. A visual of what's being proposed. Next slide. This is the info hold. There's one more portion about the archaeologically sensitive area, just requesting an archaeological review. But essentially, because we had conversations about, is this compatible with the landscape? Are there less kind of maximized or significant, ways to go about protecting property and seawalls? And so as you see under visual SRA here, the info hold is requesting how this is compatible with the established SRA ordinance in Title 23, which we're all hopefully familiar with post Leopold. So you'll see the request items here that are very similar to our request items from land use. And let me know if you want to go back there, but we'll go to the next slide. So NCAC recommendation, a yes vote would confirm the notes below. Because this site is a messy, dangerous disaster, we would propose that this site be cleaned up ASAP and maintained throughout this permitting process. As we know, this type of process can take years, and this is a SRA beach public access point and a major drainage point. It seems like it's only going to get more dangerous as we enter rainy season. Similarly to the info hold, the project appears to dominate the site. I say appears because that's not a fact. And we've noted that the info hold seeks these explanations. If it were to move forward, we're suggesting some sort of concrete colored like the bluff so it blends in more. And just seeking any clarification as to what the county or coastal commission, what direction they're heading in terms of these seawall repairs and replacements that lend themselves, let's see, to more scenic or environmental sensitivity, some sort of limited armoring that preserves landforms. So we wouldn't be voting on that question. That's just so we don't forget it. But we would be voting as a request to have this site cleaned up and to have those issues in the info hold answered. Looks like Kermit has a question. Do you want to go ahead? And you're muted.
I don't
Oh.
remember, is this one got the public access next to it or the previous one?
This one has the public access next to
Okay.
it.
Is that public access in good shape?
It's in better shape than the other two.
Well,
It's better shape than.
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Is any of this apply to that public access? Can we stick them with some improvement on that public access if we need to?
Ooh.
That's all my question is, do we?
There, you're asking a lot of those nexus questions, Kermit. Dane, I don't know if you want to jump in on that or not. But essentially, well, I mean, you can explain it better than I can. You're the planner.
Yeah, sure. And I understand based on these comments why they would be viewed differently. I think with this project, so let's see, I'll answer your question first, Kermit. A project proposed on private property is likely not going to include any updates to, work on in the public right of way. If, the applicant wanted to apply for an encroachment permit or was conditioned to apply for an encroachment permit based on the project referral, which is sent to Public Works similarly as it is sent to North Coast Advisory Council, if their response cited requirements that would require the applicant to apply for an encroachment permit to, improve access, then I guess we would evaluate it at that time. I'll certainly pass these comments along to Andy, project manager. And I don't think that this project involves any update to the existing access.
Is that helpful, Kermit?
Yes, kind of what I expected, but I was just hoping for more.
Yeah, I know it's not a fun answer to say, but I highly doubt it because land uses or at least planning and building reviews land use proposals on private property. So.
And then Dane, really quickly, I understand why you could also have felt like they would be bucketed the same, because is it kind of a understanding that if you didn't have a permitted seawall and then it went kaput and you're trying to get a new seawall, that's not really a thing? Is that kind of like common understanding, or can you talk?
Exactly. Yeah. So if you read, between the lines of that info hold, it's stating there's no permit history for the wall. It's going to need to be supported by geo review, and if you look into the Title 23 requirements, may require peer review. I didn't see the note of the seed mixture, but potentially there's a way, I'll talk to Andy about that. He requested for an archaeological resources study. These are all of the technical documents which we would need staff members to support a project like this. And it's definitely also going to rely heavily on our referral responses, namely the Coastal Commission. They're likely not going to support a new seawall. That's what this is, right? If it hasn't received the benefit of a building permit, this is a new seawall, right? That's from a land use perspective. That's what we're calling it. So if that's the case, the Coastal Commission won't support it. And this project is subject to appeals because it is on the bluff and it is in the coastal appealable zone, if not already in the coastal original retained jurisdiction, where they may have the ability to just bypass local permitting as far as coastal development. So I think the resolution for both projects may be very similar. Currently, as it's proposed, I see why they seem very different.
Yes, I think our big thing is like, how can we get it cleaned up? Like I don't know. I mean, you're welcome to come down. It's an actual disaster. And we've been staring at it for like, what has this been, like a couple of years? Brian, do you want to, and thank you, Dane, for that clarification. Brian, do you want to go ahead?
My comments relate to Kermit's question. I take that access almost every day, and so I'm pretty familiar with it. The access itself is not a problem. Once you're down on the beach, and well, actually, what is public property, not private property, is indicated. There are some dangers there, and they have to do with the seawall. So whatever ends up happening, the danger, meaning concrete in different places, needs to be removed. So as it stands right now on public property below the high tide line, there is some what used to be the seawall.
Yeah.
Those are my only comments.
Thank you, Brian. How about if everybody agrees, I'll add that note into the final referral, just that extra clarification of why we're requesting it be cleaned up.
Christina, maybe Dane at the next meeting can clarify for us which county department actually would address hazards in that unincorporated strip of coast. I think that would help.
I'll honestly go ahead and address that now.
Okay.
I am a liaison for this council to the county, but it's, as a current planner, my task and my role is to review private development proposals, and I just would hate to step on toes or speak on behalf of another department. It was my understanding that the public right of way is a public works encroachment permit if you were to propose new work, but beyond that, I have no comment, and I'd be happy to, pass along this info to public works staff, but it may be a roundabout bit of information, because this has definitely been brought up before at this meeting.
Well, all I'm really asking, Dane, is how does Public Works address this? Because this is not the only one where somewhere along the line somebody did armoring of seawalls and they failed, and now they're lying in the county right of way. How does the county ultimately deal with all that, or they just don't? And I'm not asking you to answer it. I'm asking, who would be the proper person to answer that?
I'd be happy to answer any planning questions, but I will default to, reaching out to Public Works for public right-of-way questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if it's a resource, you have your resource protection agencies too.
Okay, we'll put it in the notes, and then Jeff, you and I can connect and, connect with either Public Works or Blake and Bruce. But for the sake of this, I've made that note, so when it moves forward, I'll have that specification. And Karen, let me know if I'm not clear. That at the very least, we understand there's private property, but we would like at least the public county managed aspect of this to be cleaned up. Does that sound correct? Thumbs up, thumbs down. So we
Yeah, I would make a motion that we approve this with that addition, subject to there not being some significant change in the design of the repair down the road that we're not aware of. So in other words, if after they address the information hold, the county still goes forward with it and it stays substantially as they presented it from their respective consultants, then, at least I'm okay with that. But I wouldn't want to see drastic changes that we haven't seen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll put that in there. It's just my understanding that this is like never getting built.
Probably not.
Okay. But
Second
yeah,
motion.
thank you. Any negatives? Let me click through some faces.
Did Kermit second?
Yes, he did. And then, did I catch you? Supervisor Gibson. Are you there? Do you mind just telling us who would be the most appropriate party to kind of, we have this like failed seawall that in the middle of the permitting, or not even the middle, in the beginning stages of the permitting process, which who knows where that's going to go and for how long. And we're just wondering, how can we get this mess of like metal and concrete and all this stuff cleaned off of the beach? What?
I suppose as a if it's a public safety issue, there becomes some kind of code enforcement thing. It is obviously the property owner's responsibility if the material comes off their property, and how that gets enforced is not clear. But if there is a public safety issue, please refer it to our office, code enforcement, and we can figure out how that gets handled.
All right, awesome. Thank you for that.
And I'll add really quick before the conversation comes to an end. Thank you, Supervisor Gibson. Jeff, I just want to say, I just respectfully need to stay in my professional lane. I'm as much a beach enjoyer as anyone else, but I gotta, stay true to my role here. So I respect and will pass along the comments to the project manager and, my supervisor, but I gotta stay in my role.
Well, I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm just trying to figure out who at the county would address it. I understand that you're working on the private property case file. That's what you're telling me. So I'm just saying who at Public Works is the proper, if you could let us know who the proper contact would be to address the problems in the public right of way.
Again, Madam Chair, if the council would just like to refer the question to our office, Blake will track it down.
Awesome. Thanks so much, you guys. Okay. And we're good here. Karen, do you have what you need on this?
I think I'll talk to you offline about the wording of that motion.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
Thanks.
Okay, we're moving on. Thank you. Okay, last one. This is one that the Land Use Committee reviewed earlier this year. And yeah, I'm unclear why it was never brought before the full NCAC, but here we are. So essentially this is, okay, so 371 Wedgwood Street. This is the demolition of a 666 square foot attached garage, reconstruction of approximately 1,186 square foot attached garage. I italicized, this project will result in no changes to the existing 2,200 or 2,427 square foot single family residence, only because everybody who lives in Cambria kind of knows that this home recently expanded and was renovated under a building permit, which fell under the 10% expansion rule. So essentially the building permit happened, construction's almost done, and they're applying for a coastal development permit for this garage, an additional garage, a secondary garage. So, so that's why that's italicized. So it requires the purchase of up to 530 square feet of transfer development credits. This project will result in approximately 2,700 square feet of site disturbance on a 6,950 square foot parcel. Next slide. Okay, little image of where we're located, right, backs up to Biscalini Ranch, right there on Wedgwood. Next slide. There's a visual that just gives you context of the parcels and sizes of the homes. Next slide. This is essentially a mock-up of the home and the garage and the additional garage. Next slide. So NCAC recommendation, a yes vote will confirm the recommendation of approval with a additional request, just that the county consideration against the North Coast Area Plans TDC criteria, including the maximum use limits, and clarify the standard for interpreting those maximums. And that we would be recommending approval for the construction of this additional garage. Questions and or motions?
Kermit will make a motion approval.
Do I have a second? Somebody give me a second.
Well, I'll second it.
Oh yeah,
So
okay.
it doesn't die.
Tucky and Karen. Thank you. Do we have any negatives? All right. Well, there we have it. So at least hopefully that one was simple enough for you, Karen. Okay, and all right, well, Dane, then we're done with land use, so I'll say thank you. I know it's late and we appreciate you being here and sharing what you can with us.
Thank you all for all the reviews. Excuse me. I'm sure Montse will be happy to hear you all approved
Yes.
the project, and thanks for being so welcoming last month when she joined us.
Oh yeah, we were so happy to have her. She's awesome. So thank you. And I'll email you guys just the write-up of these.
Sounds good. I'm gonna hop off this meeting. If anyone has any project questions, feel free to reach out. If you have any general inquiry questions, we have an awesome resource on our website. Contact us via the call tracker form. I dare you. Until next month, take care, everyone.
Thank you, Dane. All right, you guys. So we've done our break, so let's keep it moving. If Vice President Harry Farmer has something for us, feel free to go ahead. And you are muted.
Thank you, Chair Galloway. I'll do my best to make this as brief as possible. So at our meeting on September 11th, the first order of regular business was we just kind of updated the various projects in our strategic plan, mainly seeing what progress is being made on some of these projects, the time elements involved to completion, probably the ones that are most important that Cambrians would be concerned about, I would think, would be the Stewart Street tank replacement. There's actually going to be 2 tanks, but right now the replacement of one of them has just gotten started, maybe within the past month, probably going to take, and the general manager, Mr. McElhaney, can correct me on this if need be, probably going to take maybe close to a year. Also, with regard to the San Simeon water tank and the effluent line, water line, excuse me, an effluent line, it's still moving forward with various project development taking place there. So it's probably going to begin. Well, the general manager can correct me whether this project will either begin or end in early 2027. My sense it might be starting at that point, but I can't be sure. Right now, it's about 30% developed with regard to the project. The next thing we did was approve the purchase of a new fire engine. Our 2 fire engines right now are 10 years old and 20 years old. So obviously we're replacing the one that we purchased in 2005. There was some debate as to whether we should finance the purchase of the fire truck either for 3 years or 5 years, but ultimately we approved a cash purchase of this fire engine that was taken, I believe, from reserves for about $1.1 million. We also discussed the East Ranch Community Park, which is moving at a snail's pace, I guess you could say. There's a variety of different projects. I can quickly read them off to you for those of you that aren't that familiar. The plans are ultimately, and who knows how long it's going to take to develop all of these projects. It's going to be a playground, a volleyball court, a multi-purpose playing field, a gazebo picnic area, disc golf course, a group picnic area, horseshoe and cornhole, a loop trail, which has already been finished. And it says here, phase 2 of the restroom. I'm not familiar what that necessarily is, but so far, what we have is a parking lot, which costs a little over $300,000 a number of years ago, and also the restroom that was just finished and it's available for use, and that was about $360,000, give or take. So we've spent about $250,000 so far. All of the projects that I just mentioned are probably going to cost about $250,000. The ones that we discussed perhaps moving forward with were the disc golf, the horseshoe, and the cornhole. Disc golf has already been funded for about $20,000. The other two items would be about $5,000 each. So we're hoping to at least move forward with those at some point in the near future. All of these projects, by the way, require some kind of permitting. So that kind of slows everything down. And obviously we need to generate the funding for most of these projects. With regard to the skate park, right now all of the funds have been raised to move forward with the skate park. So at this point in time, we need to move forward with a request for proposal. In other words, have people propose the building of the skate park. So right now we're probably going to be waiting, and there's like a 90-day limit with regard to somebody submits an RFP and it gets approval. So we're going to probably have to wait until sometime, let's say late winter, early spring, to move forward with this part of the project, because we can't really do the project during the rainy season. And request for proposal, people are going to have to be working on developing that, the various contractors that are interested. There's a number of good folks that are wishing to be involved with the project. We have some folks actually from the North County that have volunteered to submit and do some of the concrete work. So that's very generous of them. As I said, this is probably going to begin during the rainy season. Also, after the rainy season, pardon me. Right now, we're having to build a restroom, which is by the county is requesting that. And this is probably going to take about a 6-month process. So I'm going to be very positive and optimistic and forward looking with regard to this project ultimately being completed after the rainy season, and it gets developed after the RFP, after someone who has made a proposal gets it approved. I'm going to generously be optimistic and say that we will have this skate park built by fall of 2026. I believe that the general manager probably believes that it's going to be sometime in 2027, but this is my feeling. Also, with regard to the restroom, it's possible that the county will allow for a temporary porta potty to take place to allow the skate park to be opened, but then we'd still have to ultimately have the restroom. What else did we discuss here? Excuse me. We also discussed global water innovations with regard to the pilot project for brine waste disposal. So Mr. Easter gave his presentation. It appears that sometime early next month, probably October 6th, the pilot project is going to be implemented. It's going to take 1 to 4 weeks. So the WRF, the Water Reclamation Facility, will be operating during that time. This project, at least the pilot project, isn't going to cost the district anything, or excuse me, isn't going to cost the ratepayers of the community as well as the district anything. Mr. Easter was somewhat vague on the ultimate cost of the zero liquid discharge project, if in fact we do approve the development of it. And like I said, this is mainly for brine waste for the water reclamation facility. What else did we do here? Oh, and also we had a change in Vice President Michael Thomas decided to leave that position, claiming a conflict of interest with regard to he's involved with a lot of the volunteer work that is involved on the Fiscalini Ranch. And right now we're kind of working with the FFRP, Friends of the Fiscalini Ranch Preserve, with regard to funding of maintenance on the ranch. So he felt he didn't want there to be a conflict of interest, since he's obviously on the board, as well as the board of the district, as well as being involved with Friends of the Fiscalini Ranch Preserve and his volunteer efforts. So as a result, we voted on a new vice president. And so I was chosen to be that person, which means that I will probably be board president in a couple of months, early December. One thing I highlighted, by the way, during this particular agenda item was that the current vice president of the United States and myself share the exact same birthday, and that in 2024, when he turned 40, I turned 80. So I offered to people that, well, you could choose which VP you felt most comfortable with, but the fact that we share basically the same birthday 40 years apart, I thought was rather interesting. And then we also had a public hearing on something that is a little bit too confusing for me to explain to you. I believe that our general manager can do it in a more than adequate fashion. So I believe that I believe he's next. So I'll hand this off to him. And so that's it. That's my report. And hopefully I explained it in a fairly adequate fashion. I'm always kind of stumbling over myself, but that's the way it is. You get to my age and that's what happens. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you, Vice President Farmer. Matthew, anything you want to add on to that?
I mean, that was a pretty good synopsis of some of the things that we went through as far as district goes. There's so much to rewind there. As Vice President Farmer indicated, we have a lot of infrastructure needs in the district as far as the strategic plan that are moving forward, and have some barriers as it applies to funding. So if we talk about the affluent line, some of those other areas, we talk about the community park and its expansion, there's funding issues, period. So we're working with various different groups within community, the Cambria Community Council, and working on those different funding issues. For the skate park, they met the fundraising goal that the board set in terms of the amount we needed to have in the account, essentially, to go to RFP. And as Vice President Farmer indicated, we want to make sure that we go out to RFP closer to the time that we break ground. We don't want to go to RFP, let's say in September and October, when we won't break ground until February, March, which is the dry season. And we know when specifically to that site, if you take a look at that site, the inclement weather, the wet season is not the optimal time to try and construct the skate park. And while some may be frustrated with the delay in the RFP and breaking ground, fiscally, if you look at what it would cost and the potential increase in cost to break ground on the skate park in the wet season, isn't wise. So the board approved staff to go to RFP once we have all these pieces in place to include the appropriate season weather-wise to break ground. And so we'll be moving forward with that in in second quarter of 2026. To the completion piece of it, I know Vice President Farmer indicated that I don't believe it'll happen until 2027. I meant that in terms of the restroom piece. So when we talk about total completion of the skate park, the restroom is a requirement from the county to really have this park be fully completed and approved. And the restroom has some hangups. It has some hangups when it comes to it being in a floodplain, and the county wants engineering specs on how that restroom will withstand that flood zone. And so there's some calculations and some things that need to happen for that restroom, in addition to the lead time for that pre-manufactured restroom. So when I talk about the full completion of the skate park, it's really based on the restroom and the lead time on the restroom, which would be in 2027. However, as Vice President Farmer indicated, we're going to be applying for temporary occupancy permits to allow us to operate the skate park once the features of the skate park are complete, to put up a couple porta potties and allow our youth and maybe even adults to actually enjoy the skate park when it's completed, while we're waiting for the rest of the project to be fully completed. And that'll be a part of the grant process in terms of reimbursements. Gosh, Vice President Farmer, you went over so much. I'm trying to recall all this. The strategic plan, we had some various different updates as it applies to a lot of our strategic goals. A lot of those goals are depending on funding. And currently, when it comes to our affluent line, that's a temporary replacement line for our domestic water, that could be a $5 million project that we currently don't have the funds for. So we're looking at a lot of different rate studies, a potential Prop 218, which I know is never popular with the public. And so a lot of those projects have been pushed back a little bit, to include, the relocation of the rodeo grounds, F&R facilities, several things. I don't know if anybody wants to touch on the boil water notice. I'm sure that's a concern to the public. When we talk about our Stewart Street tanks, that replacement project had begun. We've taken down one tank, left one tank intact. On Friday of last week, the one tank that was still operating had a failure with its I would equate it to the bob that you have in your toilet that senses the water level. That transducer level in that tank failed. And so as the tank drained, that sensor reported that tank as being full the entire time. So as the tank was draining, our electronic systems and monitoring systems were recording it as full, and then it drained all the way to empty and depressurized our system for about 1,500 residences or utility customers. When that system drains entirely and depressurizes, it allows that negative pressure within the pipe system potentially could allow contaminants to be sucked in to our water system. And so that's an automatic trigger from the Division of Drinking Water to do a water test and a boil notice. It's typically precautionary, but it's one of those things as a district that we had to do. So as that system depressurized and we found out about it, we called as many staff as we could back in, and it just happened to happen on a Friday, which most of our staff was off. So myself, Mr. Tristan Reaper, Eric Johnson, all of our staff came in on the day off and started working on this water emergency. Contacted the Division of Drinking Water, contacted OES, the fire chief was there, and started mobilizing the CERT team to go door to door to each of the residences that were affected. And we started putting many communications out to the community while we were waiting for this essentially 18 to 24-hour lab processing to get us back the results we needed to notify the public that the water eventually was not contaminated. But because of that depressurizing of the system, it caused us to issue the boil notice. I was at the Vets Hall handing out cases of water. We had several facilities and resources staff. We called in some of our administrative staff and had phone calls routed to their homes, which they were off, so they could answer some of these questions. It was challenging. We only have about 40 personnel in the district, and most of those personnel are not the ones that would answer phones or deal with this from a higher level perspective. So we sent out many communications. OES sent out many communications. We were on social media, trying to alert the public, and then we went door to door and started noticing the affected area. And fortunately, about 24 hours later, we were notified that there was no contaminants in the water, and we were able to clear and end the boil water notice. With that very long-winded response, I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Matthew. It looks like you have a question from Jeff Bloom. You want to go ahead? And you're muted. Sorry, Jeff. Everybody's muted tonight.
I probably should be permanently muted. On your boil water notice, I would recommend you do sort of an after action report to the public, because I think you took a lot of heat for inaction. That, for one thing, there's always a delay when you have an equipment malfunction and you don't know it. But once you did, you guys were all over it, and I'm sure everybody was working triple time actually solving the problem versus initially communicating with the public. So I think you could help yourselves by doing some kind of little report that shows the timeline of just how fast you did respond and get word out, and the agencies you had to notify and all that. Because I don't think people really understand how daunting an effort it takes, especially if you're a small agency, to mobilize like that. And then the other quick question was, because I don't recall it being in the plan, was the restroom with the skate park part of the original plan that the county approved? Or is it a separate project?
Yeah, I'll take it in two pieces. So, I mean, you nailed it, Jeff. Like, we literally yesterday held a management meeting and had an after action review. So the chief was there, I was there, the entire water staff was there, and we talked about, okay, this is what happened. How could we improve this? And we actually pulled out the emergency response plan for the water department and changed the entire plan to include the fire chief, because the fire chief is tapped into the Office of Emergency Services. So the fire chief was there, and we actually changed the plan and the response matrix to make sure that one of the first notifications is to the fire chief, who's tapped into OES, who actually gets these emergency alerts out. And so we had an AAR yesterday, and now we're moving forward with compiling that information, and then we're gonna probably blast that out in the next couple days and basically give the public an after action review. I tried to give them a decent how we got here statement, and then I want to give them that after action review. So and the chief can chime in after this. But yeah, we definitely looked at that and said, okay, how could we have done this better? And Cody Meeks, who's our acting, or he's our water superintendent, had let us know, and I know this is not popular to the public, but he's like, we actually have 24 hours to notice the public per the Division of Drinking Water for a boil notice. So we can have an issue water-wise and still wait 24 hours until we notify the public. We did it in 3. And for a small community service district, like I thought we did incredibly well. Are there things we could do better? Of course, right? That's what these after action plans are about. And so we reviewed it. We talked about how we could streamline this. We're actually going to institute an all callback for all staff, all 40 employees of the district. They're going to be on the same callback system that the fire department is. So we're implementing that callback system with regular staff that are quote unquote not emergency staff. And so we can pull people back in when they're off to actually deal with some of these emergency response. So those are some of the things that we learned. To the skate park.
No, before you leave that, in that vein, make sure that you point out to them that their role when you have an emergency isn't necessarily going to be their role when they're during their normal working day. All of us who have spent time in EOCs and all that, you're not doing anything remotely like you do during the day.
No,
when you're
no,
in there,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And that, so when you call them all back, you know, a guy who works on maintenance crews may be the one answering the phone because that's what it's come down to. You know,
Yeah, you nailed it. So one of the funny things in all of our job descriptions are other duties as assigned.
yeah,
And
well,
so
this is a big one.
yeah, so we'll communicate with staff in terms of the other duties as assigned, and kudos to a lot of our staff that came in on their day off and were answering phones. I mean, they did a phenomenal job. To the skate park question, that has always kind of been in the plan. So when we first started the skate park project, that was one of the key points, like it was for the community park plan, is that any type of park feature, the county requires a restroom. So that's always been there. And so that was added to the plan very early and has kind of always been a part of the plan. It's just how we were going to get that restroom there. Were we going to actually have an engineer and have it designed, or could we do a pre-manufactured restroom? And because of some of the things that the pre-manufactured restroom company has in terms of kind of auto permitting because of their specs, works so much quicker. However, because it's in that floodplain, excuse me, because it's in that unique area, which is a floodplain, tagged on, of course, more regulatory issues in which we had to address. So that caused a little bit of a delay as far as that goes. But in terms of the fundraising, reaching the fundraising goal, heading out to RFP in the right season, I don't see it causing any delay as far as the construction piece. The public will see a delay in the construction piece because we don't want to do it in the wet season, right against that crazy hill that already has a retaining wall that's going to have to be fortified. And when we talk about demolition and that wet, muddy hill, we don't want to do it in the wet season and jack up costs by 10-15%. So I hope that answered your question.
Well, where I'm going with it, was the restroom part of your grant funding application?
Okay, Matthew, really quick, can you answer this? Can you guys go to coffee and just fill us
Jeff,
in and that
Jeff, coffee, it's happening.
give him his answer and then, because it's getting late.
I'm sorry, Chairwoman.
Me too.
The grant was just for the overall cost of the project. So the overall cost of the project at one point was estimated at 1.2 million, that had a restroom component into it. But as costs creeped, it escalated. And then we did get a grant from the tourism board towards the restroom. But it's always been there. It's just the cost creep that's happened since the grant was acquired.
Well, just watch out that you don't get yourself in the trap of not being able to get reimbursed because you didn't complete the project.
That's on my radar. Yeah, we once we break ground, we're completing the project. It will. We're hoping the RFP comes in at a respectable number that our current funds raised will be able to achieve it.
Okay, thank
Got
you
it,
guys.
Christina.
Okay, so Harry, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to make this quick. I just want to thank, there were a number of comments on Nextdoor with regard to this event that took place with the water tank. And as usual, there were folks that were making some negative comments that were misrepresenting the facts, so to speak, and finding fault with the district and how they did or didn't handle it. But I want to thank the majority of folks who spoke out in favor of how Mr. McElhaney and staff handled this particular problem and communicating with the public and resolving the problem as quickly as possible. So I just wanted to state that. And like I said, thank the majority of people who were supportive of how that entire situation was handled. So thank you.
Thank you, Harry. One last thing, and I swear I'll be quiet, Christina, is that we'll put a blast out about this as an example. And I know you're well vested in this. When we talk about emergency preparedness from the fire and evacuation and earthquake, I mean, you name it, tsunami, this is a new piece that was added that I think got the attention of our public. And so we're going to put out an announcement, and we're going to try and get the rest of the community to reach out. And you're going to be a part of that. And so as Mrs. Fox, you know, in terms of getting out to them and saying, this is why it's important that you get signed up for these alerts. You know, we had to go door to door, and we got several comments about how they're not on social media and they're not signed up to this and they're not signed up to that. We're in 2025, and this is just the way we communicate now. So in order to get everybody informed, the push that you guys are doing, you know, to include Chief Berkey, to get people signed up on these alerts is how we get interconnected on these emergencies. And sometimes the emergencies aren't fire, earthquake, tsunamis. They're don't drink water because we had this emergency. So we're going to get that information pushed out, and I'm hoping this event, good or bad, has now alerted the public to say, hey, I've got to get tapped in to these systems that actually let you know when these emergencies happen. And with that, I will be quiet.
Thank you, Matthew. All right. No more hands. Our fire chief, our patiently waiting fire chief, Michael Berkey, do you want to share some things with us? I know your report is linked in the agenda, but there were a few things you were going to touch on if you're still alert.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. So I'm just going to briefly go over the fire chief's report. I'll try and make it as quick as I can. So the month of August, we saw a total of 94 incidents, 10 false alarms, 28 public service assists, 2 hazardous conditions, 54 medical emergencies, and 0 fires, which again is always good. Comparison information, we served 48 of our residents. We had 31 non-residents. So as year-to-date comparison, for the year-to-date for 2024 was 652 calls total, and this year we're right around 722. For the month of August, the 2024 total was 93. So we're right on par as far as the month of August goes. For training, our fire department focused quite a bit on horizontal and vertical ventilation tactics. That's just venting the fire when we get there if it's not already venting itself. Ladder operations was another big one, and then command and control for hotel type fires. A lot of those require specific type tactics to train on, so that's why those are kind of specific. The public education portion of my report really focused on mine and my department's county involvement. So many of you know that we're trying to be as involved with the county as possible as far as the other departments, the municipalities, and with CAL FIRE. So we do attend. Especially me, I attend a lot of meetings that have to do with disaster planning around our county. I was heavily involved with the Gifford fire, even though we weren't directly affected. We were still notified we had meetings almost every day, about twice or sometimes 2 or 3 times a day regarding the Gifford fire and the updates for it. So I always kind of want to, let our community know that we are involved in the other going-ons in the county as well. So just in case there was any questions about that. Our fire department also was involved with some live fire burning down in San Luis Obispo. And that's always great training for them to be able to go down to a building that's been abandoned or whatever they've deemed safe enough to burn, and they'll do that. So they'll do live operations in those buildings, and that's a very great and valuable opportunity for our fire department to be able to go down there and perform firefighting tactics. As you know, we had Pine Dorado as well, so I thought that was extremely successful. We saw a lot of people that day. I was here the whole weekend, and I thought there was an unusual amount of people here, and so that was extremely nice to see. So wrapping this up, we had a public service section of my report. We had 4 smoke detector changes, 9 defensible space and /residential inspections, and 6 business inspections. That concludes my report. So Christina mentioned that, or Madam Chair, sorry, mentioned that I had a little bit more to talk about, and what she's referring to is we had a I don't know if you guys know, but we have a pretty substantial aeromedical transportation uh, unit in our town that the base is actually closing. So Mercy Air out of Paso Robles that primarily serves the North County and the North Coast, that base is closing. And so while we still have the ability, to back up, we have 3 entities within our county that are that service our area. So one would be primarily Mercy out of Paso Robles Airport. The second would be CHP, the law enforcement helicopter. They also have a paramedic on their helicopter, and they do serve our area. And the third would be a CalStar or Reach out of Santa Maria. And so with the closing of the helicopter base in Paso Robles, that significantly impacts our area. Again, because the Santa Maria flight time is significant, and the difference between H-70, the CHP helicopter, and Mercy is vastly different. Although we are extremely fortunate to have CHP here to service us, we've used them a significant amount of times out on our coast, but they're primarily a law enforcement mission, and so their medical transportation is secondary. They do a lot of rescues for us out here. They respond to a lot of rescues, and their paramedics are top notch. But they Mercy also has paramedic and a nurse on board. So I don't want to get too much into the weeds about what that difference is, but it's significant. And so what Mercy can provide us, and an aeromedical helicopter like that can provide us is absolutely significant. And I'm personally devastated to see them go. I don't want that base to close down, but the funding's not there for them, and so they have to do what they have to do. But I just wanted to kind of bring that up, and I think the reason why I want to bring that up is to emphasize what we are providing, what our fire department and our healthcare district is providing up here on the North Coast for our citizens. So not only do we have the ambulance that provides paramedic services, but we also, and they are primarily a transporting agency. So our fire department also has paramedics on the engine, and I cannot tell you how valuable that is to our community. And I think, again, I'm going to try and keep this as quick as possible. I don't want to be too long-winded, as I already am, but I just want to emphasize the need, and now more than ever that our paramedics are absolutely required and needed in this area. With that, I'm open to any questions. Like I said, I'm trying to keep it as brief as I can. I know it's been a long meeting. So if there's any questions about this after this, please reach out to our fire department. I would love to give you more information and give you some more detailed information on kind of the statements that I made tonight. But in an effort to keep it short, I'll open it to any questions.
Okay, well, I know, yes, it is late, but I also don't want, you just sat through like one of the longest meetings on earth. So I want you to, be able to get across what's important to get across, and not feel rushed, because we went on and on earlier. My question for you, because this is something that I think I'm still trying to better understand, is like, and I could even be messing up the question, the difference between like the paramedics and EMTs. Am I messing that up, or is that?
Oh, no, yeah. So it gets a little confusing. So they call it ALS and BLS. So we have a basic life support, and that's where the quote unquote the EMT comes in, and the paramedic is the ALS. So it's the advanced life support. So it's just the paramedics are able to provide cardiac support, the IV support, drug support, those kind of things. EMTs can't typically do that. There are areas, and again, I don't want to get too detailed here, but For our area, that's the differences. You have EMTs that provide basic care, and that's what CAL FIRE does in our area. They provide basic care, and sometimes even less than that. Sometimes they even have just a quick, and they're not even EMT level. So having the paramedic level, that, like I said, that's what you see them starting the IV. They do cardiac support, trauma, so they do a lot of advanced skills. The innovations, a lot of, like I said, I don't want to get too far in the weeds here, but
Okay, and then but just so I'm understanding, some fire departments or like CSD fire departments will just have EMTs and not have paramedics, but we have, or you have,
Correct.
Cambria Fire Department has paramedic services currently
correct.
in your fire department, and then we have the healthcare district as well.
Correct.
Okay.
And the important thing to note about the healthcare district is that they also have a larger mission than just Cambria itself. They serve the entire North Coast, up from essentially from, down to Via Creek area, all the way up to the Monterey County line. And so where they can get very easily, and I can tell you this from working there, that was my first experience coming into Cambria. I actually worked for the healthcare district full time. And I can tell you right now, those ambulances they get sucked into the system down into, I ran calls in Arroyo Grande. I ran calls down in Paso Robles East, very like Nacimiento Lake area. So it's very, very common for them to be gone for a long time, and both ambulances be gone and dragged into that system. So that's why, again, it's very important to look at our fire department and realize that the paramedics are extremely important, because our mission is not that large. Our mission is our district. And so having that just knowledge is understanding that, and knowing that a lot of people think that, yeah, we have the 2 ambulances here in town and that we should be good with that and we don't need them on the engine. But I can tell you again, and not to be long-winded, but I can tell you many, many reasons why that we need them on the fire department.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I think because so many people had questions about like Mercier and what and how was that actually really going to impact us and what types of services. And I'm still trying to understand that. So thank you for explaining that. We have an iPhone hand up. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, I'm actually, my name is Kevin Barter. I live up in Park Hill, but I know Berkey I fly H-70. So I wanted to kind of add something on his point there of what we offer and what you might expect from us with Mercy being gone. We are full ALS. We have a pilot paramedic crew. It's going to be staffing with budget constraints. It's going to be our issue, but we are now primarily focused on medical for doing the hoists and doing the rescues, doing the medevacs, that type of thing for the helicopter side of the house. So we're not going to be doing a lot of the law enforcement stuff anymore. So we will actually be focusing on that.
Interesting. And then
Yeah, that's great news. Thank you.
so, and I could be being obtuse, because it's like, what organization is he from?
H-70, so CHP.
Oh, hello. Okay, H-70. Did anybody else know that? But like,
No,
I did not.
okay, like you guys are like have your slang. Okay, so that's helpful to understand. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, everybody can put their thinking caps on as to, I just feel like there's a lot of like nuanced, sort of complicated things that we could better understand as a community when it comes to the emergency services being provided, who's providing that, what does that look like currently, what could it look like, for example, with something like Mercy or kind of, going bye-bye. So yeah, I don't know what, I guess maybe sometime when we don't have like land use and weird stuff going on in East Lodge Hill, and we'll find time for that. But if everybody wants to put their thinking caps on for how to have a more emergency understanding based meeting, I think that would be helpful.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
Oh, go for it.
interrupt. So I'm happy to do that. I can put together a presentation. And if anybody wants to come by the fire station and talk with us, all of our personnel are pretty well versed in this. And so I'm open to talking about it more, you know, and just kind of it's just a good conversation to have so people understand what services they are being provided. And so they're just in the know, and then, you know, that'll pose some questions, you know, um, you know, I'm open to all of it. You know, there's always going to be the good and the bad. And so I'm willing to answer all those questions. And so, yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
cool. All right, well, I don't see any other hands up. And then everybody, Karen, I know there's no outreach. Brandy's not here. Kermit, I think, and correct me, you kind of were piggybacking on the slow cog thing. Do you have something to add before we close out? Okay. Okay, you guys, I don't know what to say. I'm open to feedback. I don't know how to get this shorter. So your guess is as good as mine. Thank you for being here.
And we still have a quorum. This is
bunch of
great.
crazy committed people. So yeah, thank you. Here for constructive criticism, email me.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. All right, good night, you guys.
Good night.
Good night.